just met Suha, yeah. Yeah, I feel like this is not very fitful. So my speech ends here. It's about we cannot or will not let me win. It ends there. Now then I'm going to say in America we typically begin events with the national anthem. However, in Israel we typically end events with the
Secular?
Matter or not matter?
You have a question for Yair? Yair, they have a question for you.
It's pronounced, I just wanted to make sure that you know. It's Neil Matija.
So, like, okay, so today we decided to take the Israeli approach, so please stand for the national anthem of America, followed by the national celebration. And with that, we'll conclude our program. Thank you all so much for coming. Where in that do you think I can...
Are there not seats?
You dated.
The seat count doesn't include the journey. Maybe in that one and that one, in the back flanking the side. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Unless you think you're going to need to whisper to each other.
It might be actually.
It's just that you want easy. You don't want to have to step
You're
over
right.
anyone.
Yedida, let's think for a second. Do you want to sit by each other?
Yes,
For if we need to whisper? Or because she suggested here and here, but maybe it's
No,
better.
I think next to each other.
So let's-
go back.
You know, you want to sit in these two seats? There'll be,
Thank you.
what do we decide? Every time that there's
I'm a volunteer. I'm picturing like some old city, you know.
Oh, no.
there'll be the three seats are here.
And my husband's going to introduce me.
Yeah.
Coach Martina.
I'm Martina White.
I think it's so we'll just speak like this. Like when it's my turn, I'm gonna be standing here, and when it's your turn, we'll be reversed.
Okay.
Like this, right? Makes sense that we're both. It's big enough.
Yes. Yes, sweetheart.
I have to go look for the imam.
Okay, so go look for the image. That's it, ear. That's my partner. Okay,
So back to that pie.
Try not to speak, okay?
I would say before and with that, I would say
One
the
last
signs are, just logistical announcement. If you'd like to keep a lawn sign, please do. If not, leave it on the table as you exit. And also out there, as you exit, are the sticks to actually put it in your lawn. Please feel welcome to take that so that you can use it.
If you'd like to take a sign, feel free.
And if you're not going to use them, put them on the table as you leave.
I'm not going to say if you want those, that's fine.
Okay.
You can take it or don't.
And there are lawn signs, the metal
There
sticks.
are metal lawn signs to attach your sign to.
There are metal lawn sticks to attach to the signs at the table as you exit.
Attach to the signs at the table.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So that's a good.
And
that's
then
a good place.
and with that, yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Good.
Hi.
Hello.
How you doing? You okay? This is
Yeah.
the order of the program. Do you see it?
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to know which one of the rabbis was speaking.
Rabbi Freeman.
Perfect.
Do you know how to say Rabbi Jill's last name?
Maderer.
Mater.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. 'Cause I'm
You're
actually saying her name, and I'm like, I don't know how to say it.
Yes, Maderer.
Thank you. What's your name?
Ray.
Ray. You did
Yep.
that. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Do you want to stand together with Yeah, stand right there. Martina.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. I'm Yadida. Nice to meet
Yadida,
you.
it's great to
Thank
meet you
you
in person.
so.
I think we're
Hot mic,
live
hot
on
mic.
Yikes, hot mic is right. That's really embarrassing. It's so lovely of you to have us here. Thank you. It's really, you saved the day. No, I don't think so. Can you take this?
I'm thinking actually I'm gonna
I will put it on. I think it's.
I'm gonna have a song.
There's a
Where
bunch
should
of
I?
speakers
Here?
So leaving seats on that side would be strategic, less interrupting of the flow. People can sit on this side.
Yep.
It's just a thought.
Perfect.
Governor wants to.
Fine, I understand that too. Yeah.
Is this supposed to be posted somewhere?
Does this look stupid? One of your children handed it to me. So no, I don't need it. You can just put it back.
There's a water bottle in the shelf on the right if you need it. In addition to that,
Thank
each
you.
seat.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Send everybody pictures.
The world of like nonprofit Judaism.
I do. I'm married to a pediatrician.
Oh, okay.
My family are doctors.
So many doctors don't even know what it is.
So where? She's an intern. I don't know if she's changed her last name to Shaw. Right, right.
I got it. Yeah. I have a question for you. Sure. Do you know where the I'm sorry. Do you know where the survivors from whichever side are they here yet? Okay. I just want to make sure before he walks out. He just got here.
Are you from the governor's office?
I am. I'm Dave. Sorry.
Yadida, nice to meet you.
Yadida.
I don't know. Sharona Duri, who is a short, very hyperactive Israeli woman.
okay.
There she is. Right there. Sharona.
Hi. Do you know if any of these
He's from the governor's office. Do you know if the governor's office?
I'm sorry?
Do you know if any of the survivors from whichever side are here yet?
Yeah,
I wanted to introduce myself.
no, I don't, but as soon as they'll come in, I'll let you know. All right, Marcia. Marcia.
Big Michael.
This one,
Whirlwind from the
and ones we took in for the anti-Semitism. This one. Tell me if they're all there. Hello.
Yeah, come right up front. Come up front to the front.
Yeah. I did.
Imagine the elected officials may want more. For that side.
How many minutes?
What time is it?
Here. Who do you want where? Governor? Senator
We're behind because people can't get through security at the moment. That's what we're behind.
They tried to pick it up in there, but in the middle?
Yeah, put it in the middle.
We do look like we're not starting anytime soon, but that's because there's like 1,000 people outside. I know.
Hi, good to meet you guys. I'm sorry. I'm just like a little second fiddle. It's my wife. She's like the powerhouse. I'm just trying to like support her. I'm not dog. Thank you guys so much for coming. It's amazing how this really just started. Like we're physicians. We all have to be like all of us have a day job, but she's just like unbelievably inspired and just finds a way to like triple multitask. So
Yeah, it's always a balance. Absolutely. Absolutely.
high risk pregnancy.
Yeah.
And
I haven't seen that here. I don't have the numbers of a lot of the speakers.
The
And I want
numbers,
to
I
make
mean
sure
their phone
no one's
numbers?
waiting in line. Like, someone's waiting in line.
Oh my gosh, really? Who are we missing?
Neil, Matheja.
Neil's here.
Okay.
Oh, I need to stop doing that.
Jason?
JJ.
Because it's really disrespectful how late we're going to have to start. Just explaining, there's a line around the block. There's a very long line due to security checking, and thank you for your patience. Can you do that?
And one more second before you start. Should it like late? And they're pretty much in the beginning. So if they're not here, then maybe you can switch them Robin is here already.
Absolutely. Hi. Nice to see you too. How are you? Yeah, from the Montgomery Avenue thing. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I don't remember your name, but I definitely remember your name. Sure. Good deep.
Good to see you again.
Hi.
Where are we? In Linwood.
Yes, but weren't we in the cemetery together? Yes, we're in the cemetery. Irina Mazur, I just brought the consul of Idita, Marsha.
With a Y.
Idita,
yes.
Naimo.
Naimo?
Idita, so
Oh, yeah, let me introduce myself. Oh, hi.
Irina Mazur.
Anywhere up here. Every person that year is really important. Or that it's what it is. I know.
So over here, Irina.
I think that you and I are taking these back. There's a line going out the building. Which is beautiful.
Yeah. Anytime. Hey, Ross.
Hi, can I have everyone's attention for one moment? I apologize for the delay, but unfortunately there are many people still waiting outside to get through security, and we'd like to wait for some more of them to get in. So we are trying to be conscious of everyone's time, but also conscious of letting in the people that are waiting outside. So please just be patient, and we'll get started as soon as we can. Thank you.
Yes. That's
Don't
where
want
the,
to do anything offensive.
Yeah, Yedida, she's going to put her code in the back.
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Or I can have someone hang it up, whatever you want. I think there's Romania here. Yeah, how do we do that?
I'm speaking. So sit right here because you'll
They're going to come together, I think.
she's sitting right here. Is there, should we sit in order of her speaking? They didn't. I'm leaving very early, so this will be.
So that would be Adida, because Adida.
Then you should sit. Yeah, I think back here is better. Yes, okay. That's fine. No, it's going to be blank and sit here. I just did.
She wanted to. coming so much. Sorry for the back and forth, but it's great to have you here.
I know how much you have on your plate. Don't worry about it. And if you need a heart surgeon, oh, not yet, but I know where to go.
Not a surgeon, but a cardiologist.
Okay.
But I know the surgeon.
Okay, okay. He
Thank
knows
you
the
for making all the connections and all your involvement. It means a lot to us. Really. Thank you for coming.
All right. I'm getting off the stage now.
This is
so you're
Irene,
with me?
hi.
Okay.
I'm there, so if you need me, text me. I'll be able to run and do anything.
Absolutely,
So,
but I will be.
yes.
I will be okay. And we have this rally today, and then 2:30 we have Ukrainian rally because Senate blocked the bill that would allow financial military assistance to Israel and to Ukraine,
I know.
which is like unbelievable. It's like a stab in the back for both countries.
Antisemitism is now connected to everyone. It doesn't matter
Renee's coming now. 1, 2. Okay, Edita, where's Edita? Yeah, we're gonna go. So you want to start by saying about the exercise? Edita. Do you want to start talking about the? You want to say about the exercise? Thank you, everybody, for coming. Please, if you haven't already, please take a seat. We're about to start. Everybody, please take a seat if you can. We're going to start with a security announcement by Renee.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of where the emergency exits are in the sanctuary. So they're all marked with the green signs. There's one over this way onto Mount Vernon, one up this hallway, the main one that you came in, and the one in the back for Broad Street. Okay? Just be aware of where they are. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you all so much for joining in this event. As a people, we are no strangers to anti-Semitism. However, following the Holocaust, many of us were lulled into a false sense of security that virulent, violent anti-Semitism was a thing of the past. We told ourselves that blatant anti-Semitism was so entirely unacceptable in American society that while there were, of course, incidents, overall we had nothing to worry about. And now, particularly following the events of October 7th, many of us have suddenly discovered that anti-Semitism is everywhere, that it has always been there, and that we were simply naive. It is deep, and it is loud, and it is angry, and it has reshaped itself in new ways, but it is the same old hate, and it is just as powerful. My name is Yedida Goldman, and I'm a physician at Abington Hospital. But I am also a member of a small grassroots effort to bring this rally against anti-Semitism to life. This was originally intended to be a loud and proud outdoor event at Independence Mall, and it was so important to us to have this be a public showing of strength, to make it clear to the city of Philadelphia that we are not afraid. But apparently the weather disagreed. And so we would like to thank the clergy members of Congregation Rodef Shalom, Rabbi Eli Friedman, Senior Rabbi Jill Maderer, and Cantor Brad Hyman, who so graciously invited us to use their synagogue when the weather turned rainy. They have been incredibly open-hearted and generous, and we are deeply grateful that we did not have to cancel the rally entirely. And with that, we would like to invite Rabbi Friedman to share some thoughts with us.
Thank you, Yedida, and thank you to Yair and everyone that has been involved in really planning this amazing, amazing day. On behalf of our congregational president, John Broder, our senior rabbi, Jill Maderer, and our cantor, Brad Hyman, who is currently actually just landed this morning on a mission trip to Israel, along with a group of cantors from the Reform movement. On behalf of all of them, I want to welcome you all to Congregation Rodef Shalom and just say that we are honored to be able to host this gathering. As we turn our hearts to the east, to Israel, we are holding our breath for the return of the hostages, and we are holding steadfast in our passion for the safety and security of Israel as a democratic Jewish homeland, and we hold compassion for the Palestinians in their suffering and the need for a two-state solution. What is occurring in Israel is having real effects in our community here and has led to a dramatic rise in anti-Semitism. I've had the opportunity to hear from many in our community. A recent gathering at Temple University Hillel, where I serve on the board, a young woman told me how she was called a Zionist terrorist while walking on campus just for wearing a Jewish star, Magen David, around her neck. A student from our congregation in high school told me about how walking into his secular classroom, he found anti-Semitic graffiti on the whiteboard. Numerous congregants from our community have their restaurants in the area being targeted in anti-Semitic boycotts. And just this morning, a parent of our religious school students showed me a flyer that was left on his door slandering the ADL using age-old anti-Semitic tropes. His house, the only house on the block to have Hanukkah decorations, was the only house targeted. But what I really want to speak about today is hope. I see hope. I see hope in our allyship. Looking at the speakers today, many who are not Jewish, this is powerful. When a pig's head was left on the doorstep of a local mosque, rabbis and congregants from the entire region showed up there to condemn Islamophobia. And I am proud to know that today, in the face of rising anti-Semitism, many non-Jewish allies are standing with us. Just this past week, on Thursday, I had the chance to attend a Department of Justice-sponsored seminar on the topic of protecting houses of worship. How did I find out about this session? My imam told me about it. Every rabbi needs an imam. And I was honored to attend this session with a pastor and an imam who I'm blessed to work closely with and who have committed to me and publicly that they will stand up to hate and that we will protect each other's houses of worship. There is, yes. I am not naive. There is much we disagree on. However, we are all in agreement that there is no place for hate in our community. I also see hope today in our vibrant Jewish community. Deborah Lipstadt, the United States Special Envoy for Monitoring and Combating Anti-Semitism, recently wrote, "Combating anti-Semitism requires a shift in perspective. It must sprout from a positive place. We must know what we are protecting from assault. We must be motivated far more by our love for the insights, wisdom, and joy embedded in Judaism than by the fight against those who harbor an insane hatred for it," end quote. Right before arriving this morning, this building was filled with children and families. Children and families singing Hanukkah songs, learning Torah, and making lifelong friendships built on Jewish values. This is how we respond to anti-Semitism. I want to end with words of prayer, the words Al HaNisim, a special prayer traditionally inserted into the gratitude section of our daily prayers during the week of Hanukkah. Al HaNisim v'al HaPorkan, v'al HaGavurot v'al HaTeshuvot, v'al HaMilchamot, she'asita lavotenu, bayamim hahem, bazman hazeh. Thank you, God, for the miracles and the wonders, for the mighty deeds and the salvation and victory that were brought to our ancestors in days of old in their time. May we be granted the same in our day. Amen.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yair, and I'm also a physician practicing in Philadelphia. So I want to share the journey that has led us to this important event. You know, since October 7th, there's been a huge rise in anti-Semitism in Greater Philadelphia, sparking a grassroots effort by community members to unite and stand up against Jewish hate. Our organizing committee, a group of 12, includes Israelis, American Jews, Reforms, Orthodox, Conservatives, spans a wide range of backgrounds and political affiliations. I want to highlight the Israeli-American Council, the IAC, an organization that not only unites Israelis and American Jews, but also empowers community members to lead vital initiatives. The support and guidance for Amir Silber, the regional director of the IAC, has been invaluable, and we thank him for that. Our collaboration in this diverse small group is really a microcosm of the broader unity emerging in the Jewish community. We have partnered with about 20 organizations coming together to just say no to Jewish hate. The Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia, led by Michael Balaban, has not only offered extensive support, but also contributed its expertise thanks to the immense efforts of Jason, Robin, Holly, Rebecca, Jeff, and others. We're incredibly grateful for their invaluable assistance. It's now my honor to welcome Michael Balaban, President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia, to the podium. Michael, your contribution to this cause has been amazing, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yair. Thank you to the Israeli-American Council for organizing this important rally, to the leadership of Congregation Rodef Shalom for hosting us, even if Jonathan decides to sit all the way in the back of the room, our elected officials, law enforcement, clergy, friends, and allies for coming out today. I want to give special recognition to Senator Bob Casey, Governor Josh Shapiro, and First Lady Lori Shapiro. And Pennsylvania State Representative Martina White. I think Senator Casey got short rift in the applause there, so again, my friend. I stand here today with you on the fourth night of Hanukkah as a proud Jew, a Zionist, and a supporter of Israel, the eternal homeland of the Jewish people. Today is 64 days since October 7th, and this has been one unending nightmare. I'm sad, I'm grieving, and I'm angry. In our time of distress and grief, what has been much of the world's response? Vile and unprecedented levels of anti-Semitism that infect our streets, social media, places of worship, and our schools. A celebration of terrorism and an insidious spread of disinformation seem as though we are the oppressors and not the oppressed. An anti-Semitic trope that rears itself time and time again. In the 2 weeks following the attacks, there was a 388% increase in reported anti-Semitic incidences, a 360% increase in reports of anti-Semitism on college campuses, and over 60% of Jewish students said that they feel scared. We cannot be silenced, trampled on, or dismissed, and it does not depend on context. We will speak loudly and with moral clarity, something that those who want to support terrorist ideology and actions do not uphold. We will remind the world about the brutal murder and torture of innocent civilians by Hamas. We will remind the world of the 138 hostages who need to be freed now. We will remind the world that rape against Israeli women is a war crime. And that Hamas is a terrorist organization which continues to break every ceasefire and indiscriminately targets civilians. We need to remind the world of the complicities of organizations like the UN that have a mission to do no harm, but are enabling Hamas and others. And remind the world that anti-Zionism, which is to deny Jews our right to exist in our Jewish homeland, is anti-Semitic. That chants for the genocide of Jews, including Hamas's charter that calls from a river to the sea, as well as intimidation, attacks, and murders of Jews, will never be tolerated. Just like the Maccabees, we must remain resilient and resolute. Let us remember the ancient teachings that Hanukkah offers. If we have the courage to kindle it, even the smallest light can triumph over darkness. So I say to you, now and forever, Am Yisrael Chai. And now, at this time, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome State Representative Martina White. Representative White is currently serving her 4th term in the General Assembly. She's Secretary of the House Republican Caucus, making her one of the highest-ranking Republican women in the House. A longtime friend of the Jewish community, I am pleased to welcome her.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and members of this resilient community, I stand before you today deeply honored to address this gathering at such a critical moment. In times like these, when we witness the brutal realities of hatred and violence, it is imperative that we come together united against the forces that seek to divide us. Allow me to express my heartfelt condolences to the victims of the horrific terrorist attack in Israel on October 7th. Orchestrated by Hamas. The atrocities committed against innocent civilians were acts of unspeakable cruelty, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the affected families. It is a stark reminder of the challenges faced by communities across the globe in the face of extremism and terrorism. This vile anti-Semitism, prejudice rooted in ignorance and fueled by hatred, has inflicted untold suffering on the Jewish people for centuries. But the brutality of the Hamas attacks has shone a light on the hate and ignorance that has lived within our colleges, our boardrooms, and even among elected leaders who ignore these genocidal acts in a blind allegiance to a system that would have driven Israel to the sea. Enough is enough. Anti-Semitism in all its forms is an affront to our values of freedom, tolerance, and diversity. It is a threat to the very foundations of our democratic society. It undermines the principles of respect and dignity for all individuals, which are the cornerstones of our great nation. Let us be clear. Hatred, bigotry, and discrimination have no place in Pennsylvania or anywhere else. It divides us, erodes trust, and threatens the very people who 80 years ago witnessed the kind of brutality that we witnessed 2 months ago and shouted, "Never again." As a representative of the people, it is my duty to stand against such hatred. But this is not just a responsibility for elected officials, it is a call to action for each of us. Every citizen has a role to play in combating anti-Semitism. Whether it's in our schools, workplaces, or communities, we must be vigilant. We must educate ourselves and others, speak out against hate speech, and support those who are targeted. The history of the Jewish people is a testament to resilience in the face of adversity, but it is also a history marked by unspeakable atrocities that must never be repeated. With that said, I want this Jewish community to know, I want all of you here today to know that you are not alone. Your fight against anti-Semitism is our fight. In the halls of Harrisburg and beyond, I will continue to advocate for you and your families. As we leave this sacred space today, let us carry with us the spirit of unity, resilience, and hope. Together, we can stand firm against anti-Semitism, terrorism, and all forms of hatred, ensuring that our community remains a beacon of strength and diversity for generations to come. Thank you.
So everyone who has a sign out there, please raise them up. Please raise them up. We're going to do a selfie here. There you go.
Thank you.
Now you can ask, why did I do that? It's important for the world to know where we stand, where all of us stand. So while you're here today, make sure you let the world know your feelings, your support for each other, your support for Israel. Take those pictures, post them online. Let's spread the word of unity around the world, not the words of hate that seem to be going on. And now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce another tremendous advocate for the Jewish community, for Israel, and for Pennsylvania, U.S. Senator Bob Casey. Senator Casey Senator Casey fights every day for Pennsylvania families. He's a strong advocate for policies that address health care and early learning of children, and policies that address and fight for wages for the middle class. Senator Casey serves on 4 committees, just 4, including the Senate Finance Committee, Senate Health Committee, Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. He's also the chairman of the Special Committee on Aging, where his agenda is focused on policies that support seniors and individuals with disabilities. Senator Casey and his family live in Scranton, and I welcome you to the podium.
Well, Michael, thank you for the introduction, and for those who were standing when my name was announced, I'm honored by that as well. And I know that some people are just coming in the door because of the line. I think that line outside in the crowd here is a testament not only to your enduring allegiance to the people of Israel and the Jewish people here in Pennsylvania and around the country, but it's also a testament to the challenge before us. We shouldn't have to gather on a rainy day in Pennsylvania to talk about anti-Semitism, but we must. So, I want to start by thanking our hosts, Rabbi Madier and so many faith leaders who are here with us today. We're honored, of course, by the presence of Governor Shapiro and the First Lady, honored by your presence. I have about a half-hour introduction of him coming up, so get comfortable when I start that. No, but I'll be introducing the governor in a moment. But I know that we also have here today so many leaders in this community of Philadelphia and southeastern Pennsylvania, and I know beyond. I just had an opportunity before coming out here to meet witnesses of the horror, the massacre of October the 7th in Israel. And I know that many of you have met and had family members who were witnesses to that horror. I want to make reference again to that day, but I wanted to start by I think giving us a sense of why we're gathered today. We're gathered today in solidarity as people of, and so many of us of different faiths, people who are citizens, I guess in most cases, or every case, of one commonwealth. A commonwealth that was founded by William Penn as a, quote, tolerance settlement all those centuries ago. We also gather in this sacred historic place of faith. We gather in this season of light, this season of hope. But we also gather, of course, for a very specific purpose, I should say. We gather to call out and condemn the evil, the horrific evil of anti-Semitism. That's where we gather. The evil, the darkness, the venom of anti-Semitism has been with us for a long time. Even just in the last couple of years, we've seen the significant rise in incidents of anti-Semitism all across the country. You don't have to take my word for it, just look at the FBI statistics or the ADL statistics and state data, state after state. In fact, just last year, I think it was about December the 20th of last year, I stood on the Senate floor to give a speech about anti-Semitism because of the rise over the last couple of years. Not simply between 21 and 22, as I was speaking at the end of last year, but the rise in the last number of years. Then, a year ago, I was referencing the massacre of Tree of Life in Pittsburgh. The horror of 11 Pennsylvanians losing their lives, young and old, congregants, actually 3 congregations in one place, and the 6 that were injured that day, including law enforcement. So I was referencing that horrific event as the worst massacre of Jews in America. I was also referencing other incidents and examples. Charlottesville, Virginia, when those hate-filled marchers who were spewing hate and racism in the state of Virginia a couple of years ago. But after the October 7th Hamas terrorist attack in Israel, an event that killed over 1,200 innocent women, men, and children, innocent people in their homes, innocent people celebrating that particular Saturday, innocent people who had a prospect for the future and whose future was wiped out and that of their families. Since that attack, as Michael made reference to, anti-Semitism has exploded, and that might be an understatement, all across our country, and unfortunately here in our Commonwealth. whether it's college campuses or business establishments, a child care center, schools, synagogues, all kinds of places in American life. We've seen displays of anti-Semitism over and over and over again, by words or signs or actions, hate just spewing out of people over and over again. And as a public official, I have an abiding obligation to not only call out and categorically condemn anti-Semitism, racism, Islamophobia, other kinds of hate in our land. In addition to that obligation, I also have a duty to take action, to take steps to root it out, to investigate it, to make sure that people can be held accountable for it, and to do everything we can to prevent it. I just give you one example of something I took action on. This is a letter I just sent Friday after hearing testimony from an individual who runs a very important office, the Office of Civil Rights at the Department of Education. I asked her as I was leaving the briefing they were giving, what does she need? Do you need appropriations? Do you need new authorities? What else do you need? And I said, you can just send a letter to the committee and we'll consider it, and just put it in writing and we'll get it. And before I could walk out the door, because I was running to vote, she said, please, before you leave, I just have one request. And she asked for more appropriations to hire 150 people, 150 individuals to work in that office because of the rise of these cases. So they can investigate colleges and universities. They can make other investigations of institutions of education. And we've got to make sure that we provide those dollars. This particular office, which is now burdened by more and more cases, that exponential rise, doesn't have the resources. We should provide the appropriations. It's not a lot of money, but there's some in Washington opposed to it. But here's part of what I said in the letter. I said from October 7th, 2023, incidents of anti-Semitic harassment, vandalism, and assault are reported to increase by 388%, as Michael made reference to. That's just in a less than a 3-week period. 388% increase over that period. Then I went on in the letter to say, disturbingly, many of these reports have come from students on college campuses who describe witnessing anti-Semitic graffiti and vandalism, and from being subjected to virtual harassment and violent threats, unquote, over and over again. The least that we can do, those of us who have the authority in this case, one legislative body, the United States Congress, or two houses of one Congress, is to get them the funds they need so they can fully investigate and prosecute these cases where there is a hostile environment on the campus. So as we celebrate in this season of the year, this Festival of Lights, we have work to do. But as we celebrate this season of light and thereafter, because we're going to be dealing with this issue well beyond this wonderful season of the year, let us come together and recommit ourselves to bring light to the awful darkness of anti-Semitism and hate. God bless you and thank you. And now, thank you. We often say in the business of politics, someone who comes before us who needs no introduction, right? But I'm going to do it anyway. It won't be a half an hour. But I want you to know how much I appreciate Josh Shapiro's service to our Commonwealth. I know that. Now, like a lot of you, I've known him a long time. I knew him when he was a member of the General Assembly. I knew him when he was serving the people of Montgomery County as the commissioner of our third largest county. I knew him as Attorney General when he spent every day enforcing the law and advancing the cause of justice in our Commonwealth. And of course, I've known him in this exciting year in his first year as governor and all that he's accomplished. But I think now, well beyond our Commonwealth, the nation knows him as a fighter for justice. The nation knows him as an advocate. And I have no doubt that his voice and his work is being heard all across the world, but especially to the people of Israel at this time. So I introduce to you not just a leader in our governor, in a person of faith, but someone who's dedicated his life to advancing the cause of justice and working with all of us to root out anti-Semitism, the governor of the Commonwealth, Josh Shapiro.
Thank you. 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 Let me begin by saying just how profoundly grateful I am for Senator Bob Casey. Should not be lost on anyone that our senior United States Senator chose to be here today in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection to stand up against hate and anti-Semitism. Senator, we owe you a debt of gratitude, and we are grateful for your service to this Commonwealth. Thank you. Thank you. Senator Casey is a great partner to me in my work on behalf of the good people of Pennsylvania. But my partner in life, the person who's been by my side, that the people of Pennsylvania are now getting to know as their First Lady, is with us. Please welcome Lori Shapiro and two of our children, Max and Ruben, who are with us. I love you guys. I want to say thank you to Michael Balaban, the Federation, and all of the wonderful organizations that brought us together here today. Thank you. And I want to say a special thank you to Rabbis Friedman and Maderer for welcoming us back to RS, back to Road of Shalom. There's a reason why we are here. And it's not just because they are outstanding leaders. The reason we are here is because this is where we need to be. This is where we need to be. 5 years ago, I stood at this very place with our seats as full as they are today, in the wake of the most horrific and deadly anti-Semitic attack in our nation's history. That happened at the Tree of Life congregation in Pittsburgh. Senator Casey and I were there, and that Sunday, at the end of that weekend, I drove across the Commonwealth because I wanted to be here with all of you that night. I wanted to be here because I knew that in this place of worship, in this historically significant shul, that we could find strength in one another at an extremely difficult time. And strength and empowerment, indeed, we found. Those were challenging moments our Commonwealth and our country. People felt a lot of fear and anger in the face of that hatred and bigotry, just as I know so many of us feel today in the face of rising anti-Semitism. I'm also keenly aware that that hatred, that bigotry, can make us feel helpless at times, right? So today, here at RS, again, we gather to find strength in one another. But I hope as we gather here today, you also leave here finding your power and finding the fact that you are not helpless in the midst of this rising anti-Semitism. I came back here today to tell you that you have the power to combat this anti-Semitism. And now more than ever, we need you. In the face of these dark moments, particularly since October 7th, I've witnessed some of the best of Pennsylvania. And God bless our fellow Pennsylvanians. The vast, 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 vast majority of them are wonderful, caring, loving, inclusive people. And I have seen Pennsylvanians take actions big and small, and both matter, to combat anti-Semitism and to find their power. I've seen it here in Philadelphia, where students raised their voices, where students made sure they were heard in the halls of power at their university, and leadership was held accountable. The students did that. Right. Actions big and small I've seen Pennsylvanians proudly displaying their menorahs, not just on the dining room table, but moving them to the window for all to see because of how proud they are of their faith. Just last night, Lori and I were honored to welcome hundreds of people from across the Commonwealth to the governor's residence to celebrate Hanukkah. And one of the most poignant conversations we had was when a woman walked over to us and said, "I feel strong leaving here tonight, and I'm going to display my menorah in the window. Thank you for helping me realize my strength." She and others like her are following the lesson of Hanukkah, as the senator alluded to, finding light in the midst of darkness. I've seen it, actions big and small. Just the other day, Lori and I wanted to show our support for a dear friend and a great leader in the city of Philadelphia, and a man who makes a hell of a tahina shake, Mike Solomonov, who is here with us. Now, Mike, they like your falafel, apparently. I share that with you because I want you to know what happened when the cameras weren't looking. Laura and I were in line, and we introduced ourselves to a man who was there waiting to buy his lunch order. "What's your name?" Told me his name. So, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Squirrel Hill." I said, "Squirrel Hill? That's Mr. Rogers' country. That's Steelers' country, man. You're a long way from home." And he said, "I drove across the state today because I wanted to show my support. I don't want to let the other side win. That's why I came to Goldie today." You know, that man from Squirrel Hill who showed up in Philadelphia to support Michael and support all of us comes from the Tree of Life community. The Tree of Life community, which of course suffered horrific loss. But the same Tree of Life community, together with the Pittsburgh JCC and the Pittsburgh Federation, who brought from Israel to the United States 4 survivors of Hamas's brutal attacks on October 7th, 2 from a kibbutz, 1 from the community in the South, and 1 from the festival. Shani, Hila, Roni, and Ofer. They joined us last night at the governor's residence. They lit the Hanukkah menorah with Lori and I in the governor's residence, a menorah that was given to Governor Tom Wolf, my predecessor, by the Tree of Life leadership. They came here to the United States at the invitation of a community that suffered such loss. 2 people from across the globe dealing with darkness but finding light. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Shani and Hila and Roni and Ofer to Rodef Shalom. They are with us today. They bear witness, and their story must be told and heard. These are 2 communities, Pittsburgh and Squirrel Hill, our friends in Israel, particularly in the South, who refuse to be defined by darkness, who together are finding light and showing us the way. I have seen love and strength all throughout Pennsylvania. We should be proud of where we live. We should be mindful, though, that there are warning signs as well. The Holocaust, we know, began not with weapons, but with words. This community knows that. And I know, and you know, that we must confront those words head on. That's why we're here today. Confront them head on online and in our communities. I'm committed to doing just that. Senator Casey is committed to doing just that. Representative White is committed to doing that. But all 3 of us will tell you, it doesn't take a title before your name to do this important work. You have the power, and your voices matter. The Talmud teaches us that no one is required to complete the task, but neither are we free to refrain from it. That means that each of us has a responsibility to get off the sidelines, to get in the game, and to do our part. And today, you are doing your part by being here. And tomorrow, I know you'll continue to do your part. For me, I'll make sure that Pennsylvania knows their story and that our children know our history. And let's face the truth, too many of our children simply do not. And in the vacuum of that awareness, lies and conspiracy theories and danger can take root. We must learn from history, and we must make never again a reality here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So as we do our part, I want you to know I'm committed to doing the work as well, to ensure that we teach the history of the Holocaust in our classrooms here in Pennsylvania. To making sure that we strengthen our hate crimes laws here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. To building a Commonwealth that the Senator alluded to in the vision of Penn, a place that he visioned would be tolerant, would be welcoming to all, no matter how you practice your faith. When I sit in my office in the state capitol, a desk that's been used by governors for over 100 years, I'm not just humbled by the awesome responsibility that you've bestowed upon me, I'm keenly aware that I've taken the baton from the man whose portrait hangs just above my desk, William Penn, and extends all the way through in portraits to our most recent predecessor, Governor Tom Wolf. The baton has been passed to me through them to make sure that we continue to do the work that Penn started, to build a commonwealth that is open and welcoming unto all, to combat hatred and bigotry, and to make sure that all voices are welcome and lifted up right here in Pennsylvania. I want to ask you to continue to do what you are doing here today, and that is demonstrating pride in who you are. Keep using your voices to speak out and stand up for what's right and support your neighbors. You have the power, and you are showing it here today. And you are making a difference in your numbers and in your individual voices by speaking up. You are showing that hate has no place here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and hear me on this. Hate in whatever form, whether anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, homophobia, it has no place here in Pennsylvania, in a place founded on the promise of William Penn. We will not tolerate it. You are here to say that no matter what you look like, where you come from, who you love or who you pray to, you have a place in Pennsylvania, and as your governor, I will continue to fight for you every single day. Thank you all. God bless you. Let us continue this important work together. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for those powerful words. Rose Lubin, alaha shalom, was a beautiful and extraordinarily talented young woman from Atlanta, Georgia, who moved to Israel on her own, voluntarily enlisting in the Israeli army as a lone soldier. On October 7th, she bravely fought in the battle against Hamas terrorists in the south, saving many lives. Tragically, 1 month later, while on guard duty in the old city of Jerusalem, Rose was stabbed to death by a 16-year-old from East Jerusalem. We are deeply moved to have her mother, Robin Lubin, with us here today.
Thank you. Governor of Pennsylvania, Mayor of Philadelphia, all elected and appointed leaders, clergy, those speaking after me, citizens, friends, and all present here today, thank you for the support and good afternoon. Rabbi Shlomo Buxbaum, author of The 4 Elements of an Empowered Life, said, Judaism teaches that every great stride in life is preceded by a downfall. The journey to greatness begins right where you are standing. I am neither political nor correct. Through a series of events orchestrated by God, I am standing before you today in Philadelphia at a rally, my first one ever. May Hashem place the right words in my mouth. Words from the heart enter the heart. One of Israel's most renowned authors, Tzruya Shalev, wrote an article, Rose, quote, Rose, a bold warrior who is all pleasant and considerate, who is careful about the dignity of every person, regardless of who they are. There is a special vibe about her, her commander said, because she came especially to serve and appreciated the opportunity she was given. Rose would say over and over again, quote, generations dreamed of reaching Jerusalem, and we have the right to protect it. It was love of the country and not hatred of the enemy. And it was no accident Rose chose to serve in the Muslim quarter to protect Jews, Muslims, and Christians, and all who walked upon the gold, trembling Jerusalem stone. December 5th, 2023, Senate Resolution 11 honoring Rose Lubin. Whereas Sergeant Lubin gave her life protecting and defending the Jewish people and all Israeli citizens from terrorism, and whereas Sergeant Lubin's sacrifice and memory serves as a reminder of the urgent need for peace to prevail in Israel and the surrounding region, where future generations can live without the threat of constant conflict. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body honor the life and memory of Sergeant Rose Lubin and extend the deepest and most sincere regret of her passing. This resolution will be used to help pass Georgia House Bill 30, joining 30 states that have passed legislation making anti-Semitism into a hate crime, which is a felony. We should stop using the word anti-Semitism and start saying Jew hatred. The Torah says, quote, those that bless you shall be blessed. Those that curse you shall be cursed, unquote. For centuries, the countries that were welcome Jews have prospered. Those that have persecuted them ultimately suffered. If Jews are protected, the world will be a better place. If they are allowed to be persecuted, the lives of all moral people are in danger. Har Herzl celebrates the Arlington Cemetery in Jerusalem, where our heroes and fallen soldiers, Michael Levin and Rose Lubin, reside. Har Herzl celebrates because we are becoming united. I see Haredi wearing an M4, standing next to a soldier wearing tzitzis. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'm honored to introduce our next brave speakers from Israel, heroes who have directly endured the horrors being on site of the invasion by Gaza on October 7th. Shani Tshuva will speak, also representing Ofer, Roni, and Hila. They have come from Israel to share their experiences from the unimaginable horrors of October 7th. And this brings us to a big dilemma that the 12 of us, the organizing committee, were debating. Should we talk only about anti-Semitism here in the United States, or should we also focus, should we talk about what has happened in Israel on October 7th? And I'm very glad to see all the speakers that made it very clear. But I'll respond from my personal story in one line. Growing up in Israel, my life was profoundly shaped by my grandmother, a Holocaust survivor of Auschwitz. She lost everything. Her mother and sisters were torn away from her hands, from her grasp, while in line in front of Dr. Mengele into the gas chambers. Her stories, set against the backdrop of the Holocaust, were constant in my upbringing. So when October 7th occurred, it brought everything back to the surface, everything. The inhumanity, the brutal murders, the vicious acts of violence you've all heard of, including the kidnapping. Let me be crystal clear. Since the Holocaust, there has never been an event as profoundly anti-Semitic as October 7th. The sheer brutality and targeted hatred towards children, babies, pregnant women, elderly, simply for being Jewish, is unparalleled. We're still grappling with over 138 kidnapped individuals and mourning the loss of well over 1,000 innocent civilians whose only crime was or is being Jewish. So yes, we will talk about October 7th and about Israel. We owe it to the victims, to the survivors, and the future generations to remember and learn from this tragedy. So I would like to introduce Shani Tshuva. Let's give her respect and attention she deserves as she tells their stories.
I am extremely humbled, and nothing prepared me for being here today. Had I known on October 8th that 2 months later I will be here. My name is Shani Tshuva. I am from Kibbutz Zikim, right on the Gaza border. I have 2 children, Ayala and Uriah, and we survived. With me here, are Roni and Ofer Kissing. Stand up, please. Roni and Ofer are medics who bravely fought to save as many lives as they can in their small kibbutz Kerem Shalom, right in the southern tip of the Gaza border, on the corner between Gaza and Egypt in Israel. And with us also is Hila Faklir. Please stand up. Hila is a beautiful soul. She survived the music festival of Nova due to her great intuition. And I would like to thank everybody that came here today to be as one. On October 7th, the doors to hell opened up, and we lived to tell the story. We are here to bring hearts together. We are here to tell the world what really happened, and it did happen, and to tell each and every one of you. You have the power to make a difference. You have the possibilities to lighten the darkness, to bring light to the world. You just have to speak up. We are here wearing orange as a sign of solidarity with our kidnapped, especially with the Bibas family. The redheads, we need to bring them all back. The elderly, the sick, the young children, the youngest of which was 8 months old when he was abducted. The young women whom we know what Hamas had done and is doing to them, and to bring back all our men. They are all someone's children. We know that it's going to take time, and we know that it's going to be difficult, and we know that it's going to be exhausting, and it's going to be painful, and it's going to burn in the heart of every single one of us. But the light, it must win. You know, in a very, very lit up place, some darkness makes absolutely no difference. But in a very dark place, even a small light, the smallest light, will make a huge difference. So I want to ask every single one of you, stand up and speak. Bring out the light. And may us all pray for the return of all of our hostages. Amen.
Thank you so much, Shani. That was incredibly moving. I want to thank our volunteer musical talent, John Earlbaum, Aryeh Shalom, and John's sons, Akiva, Dovi, and Yona, for enhancing this event with their music, starting now. They will now perform an amazing original song by Aryeh called A Little Peace in Our Time.
Why have men been so blind? Searching for gold, not peace of mind. I ask myself what I'd rather be, bound by riches, so happily free. You know what I really like to see is a little peace in our time. How many hearts have to break while our love turns into hate? You ought to love, look on yourself and see the virtue in someone else. That is if you'd really like to help bring a little peace in our time. And the lion and the lamb will lay down together, and the swords of all the nations are love. forever. You know that things can only get better with a little peace in our time. How many songs must be sung? Singing nothing new under the sun. The only things worth striving for bring a little more meaning than I had the day before. You know what the world's really looking for is a little peace in her time. The lion and the lamb will lay down together, and the swords of all the nations are lost forever. You know that things can only get better with a little peace in our time. With the lion and the lamb will lay down together, and the swords of all the nations are lost forever. You know that things can only get better with a little peace in our time.
University campuses should be open and welcoming spaces for healthy exchanges of ideas, but have unfortunately become the eye of the anti-Semitism storm raging in this country. I recently became acquainted with an Israeli glass artist pursuing her master's degree at Temple University. This is her second year at Temple, and last year everything went well. But following October 7th, she began to experience a noticeable hostility in her interactions with her fellow students, progressing to some staff and students completely ignoring her when she walked by, and then she began to receive threatening voicemails. And one day, she entered her studio and found that the glass masterpiece that she had been working on for months had been intentionally vandalized. When I asked her how long she had worked on it, she answered me, "Art is not measured in time. It is my heart and soul that I put there, and by breaking that piece, they broke my soul." Shortly after her glass masterpiece was destroyed, we commemorated the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht, German for the Night of Broken Glass, and I could not help hearing the echoes of shattering glass from 1938 Nazi Germany eerily reflected in the smashing of Noah's glasswork. Noah was able to salvage remnants of this work, and my family and I are honored to have one of the pieces hanging proudly in our home.
Thank you, Edida. So our next speakers are university students who have witnessed the terrible rise in anti-Semitism in campuses and universities since October 7th. So I work with many students across the city, and one shared a horrific incident with me in tears. She described seeing 3 students on her campus ripping down the posters with pictures of the kidnapped children and old people. But when she bravely confronted them. They aggressively denied the events of October 7th, calling them lies, fabrications spread by Zionists and Jews. Because of the Holocaust, as I mentioned previously, I'm very sensitive to Holocaust denial. The denial and refusal to acknowledge the truth that I now see is the same as Holocaust denial. History indeed repeats itself, and here we are, just weeks after October 7th, facing a huge surge of denial, which is a blatant and ugly act of anti-Semitism. This incident is only a small part of a larger issue plaguing our campuses. So we're honored today to host 2 exceptional students. You may have seen them on TV or other media. JJ Kimchi, a PhD candidate in Jewish history and culture at Harvard University, and Eitan Linhart, an undergraduate at the University of Pennsylvania. You know, the last 48 hours, events at Penn illustrate the strength of our collective action against anti-Semitism. So let's warmly welcome JJ and Eitan. Please come to the stage.
a big crowd. You should all know I'm imagining you all naked. Hello, my name is Eitan Linhart. I'm a sophomore studying at Penn. I feel grateful to say that I've grown up in an unprecedented time for Jews. There have been few times in our history we've been able to hold public office or enjoy equal privileges in education. Neither I nor any of my siblings have ever been attacked for being Jewish. This is more than anyone of my grandparents' generation can say. This is what is at stake. We are currently seeing a rise in anti-Semitism unprecedented in my lifetime. Jews being attacked here and abroad, synagogues being burned. At Penn, a Jewish fraternity graffitied with the words, "The Jews are Nazis." Friends who a year ago would walk around with a kippah have taken them off out of fear. What surprises me is not the hatred. What surprises me is the indifference. One Penn student stole an Israeli flag from one of our community homes and on the same day appeared before a crowd in Center City, calling the events of October 7th glorious and exhilarating. That student is still studying at Penn. Last week, a protest for peace marched through Penn's campus, defacing buildings, targeting Jewish businesses, chanting for Intifada. We all know what that means. Terrorists attacking civilians in bars, buses, wherever they may live. These incidents are not about politics. Last Tuesday, Liz McGill testified before Congress that calls for Jewish genocide do not violate Penn's speech codes. The next day, a Penn student group posted on Instagram, "Globalize the Intifada." These incidents cannot be unrelated. I feel immense gratitude to each person out here expressing their solidarity with our Jewish community. We all know that Jews being attacked in the streets has nothing to do with politics, and we all recognize the cost of indifference. I want to leave you all with a mission. Lean on your institutions, each and every one of you, to effect change. Hold your leaders accountable. At Penn, we are already seeing the results of students expressing their discontent, of alumni exerting their influence. Though there is still much work to be done, though professors and students who have celebrated attacks on civilians or ripped down hostage posters are still at Penn, we have begun the long process of correcting our course. Each of us are members of communities, schools, companies, hospitals, religious groups, and each of us has the ability to effect change. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. We cannot make the mistake of indifference. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm imagining you all fully clothed, don't worry. Friends, members and allies of the Jewish people, thank you for standing with us today, protesting and showing solidarity against the oldest and deadliest form of bigotry known to mankind, anti-Semitism. Give yourself a round of applause, why not? I have not come up here to mince words. Following October the 7th, it has been very, very bleak indeed to be a Jew, all the more so a Jewish student. Enemies surround us at every turn. We have a multi-front war in Israel. We have terrorist groups planning and plotting further attacks. We have anti-Semitism spiking across the world. And we have, in our own colleges, fellow students who decide that now is the time to call for a global intifada against the Jews. This is disgraceful. We must oppose it at every turn. So what do we do? Where do we go from here? What is our duty going forward today? In answering this, many of you will have noticed through my accent that I am not from these shores. I was born and raised in England, a country that deeply embedded within its consciousness is a particular moment in history. I speak about the summer of 1940. This was the point in World War II when the armies of the Nazi regime had torn through the entirety of Europe, ripping up state after state, and stood poised to invade the British Isles. America had not joined the war yet, Russia was still on the side of the Nazis, and England stood alone against the world. And many in the country thought that the time had come to surrender. The time had come to parley, to talk terms with Hitler, and to try and avoid an invasion of England. But fortunately, the country was led by a man of extraordinary courage and great moral clarity, Winston Churchill. And in June of 1940, he stood up before the British Parliament and before the nation and galvanized them to fight. And he gave one of history's great speeches, a speech that many schoolboys and citizens of my country know by heart. He stood up in front of his country and said, "We shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight them on the beaches, and we shall fight on the landing grounds, and we shall fight in the hills and in the streets. We shall fight in the fields. We shall never surrender." It is in this vein that I come before you today, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Jewish students and Jews everywhere around the world, similarly with a message galvanizing everyone here to fight in every way that we can. We shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight them in Gaza. We shall fight them in Lebanon. We shall fight them in Tehran, and we shall fight them in the United Nations. We will fight them online. We will fight them on the streets of Paris and Berlin and London. We will fight them at Harvard. We will fight them at Berkeley and Columbia. We will fight them at Penn, and we will win. In this war, in the latest episode of this war of good against evil, there is no room for anything but victory. For upon this victory depends not only the future and the safety of the Jewish people, but the future and safety of Western civilization as a whole. May you all take part in this fight. May God give you strength to battle our enemies everywhere they may be found. God bless you. Thank you for coming today.
Wow, I feel like we had Winston Churchill here today. It was incredible. It is hard to believe that it has been nearly 2 years since Russia's brutal and unprovoked attack on Ukraine. The widespread death, destruction, and barbaric violence that was unleashed there, including the kidnapping of children, is unfathomable. Following October 7th, many Ukrainians felt a particularly strong and personal empathy with the Israelis, because in many ways, Hamas's attack on southern Israel was deeply reminiscent of the brutality of the Russian invasion. We are honored to have Ms. Irina Mazer, Honorary Consul of Ukraine to Philadelphia, to share her perspective with us.
Thank you. Most Honorable Martina White, I wanted to say, but she's not here anymore. Religious leaders, ladies and gentlemen, shalom, dear friends. Thank you very much for extending me this privilege to address you today and to be here today on this important rally. I represent Ukraine in Pennsylvania. I represent her people. And I would like to begin by recognizing the enormous support the Jewish people have provided to Ukraine since the full-scale invasion by Russia. My personal gratitude goes to all leaders of the Jewish community of Greater Philadelphia, for the entire community, for your advocacy for Ukraine, and for your generosity in Ukraine, in your donations, in your support, in your care. Thank you.
As we gathered here today in support of Israel and the Jewish people around the world, I would like us to reflect that we are in the period of Hanukkah celebration, which first of all commemorates an act of liberation from the foreign forces. It emphasizes the importance of our beliefs that freedom and light will always prevail, and we should uphold and celebrate those concepts even in the darkest days. I know what unites us today. It's pain that all of us feel for our children and for our countries. Ukraine's President Zelensky was one of the first world leaders to condemn the most horrible attack that happened on October 7th, and unequivocally recognized Israel's right to defend its people. The Ukrainian and Jewish people have had a shared history for many centuries. And although we experience very painful days in our past, our current relationship and friendship manifest reconciliation and strong mutual support. It is because our people understands each other's pain, as both of our nations have been deliberately targeted for centuries, only for our desire to exist and be free. When millions of Jews were tortured and murdered in the German concentration camps, the world turned a blind eye into their suffering. When Russia starved Ukrainians to death by millions, the world was silent too. So what I would like to ask you, please stand up, because I would like us to commemorate victims of Holocaust and Holodomor by the minute of silence in their memories. Thank you. It has been said, never again. But is it really true today? The souls of innocent victims of Holocaust and Holodomors would scream if they would hear that the facts of their pain and suffering are denied here today, even in the United States. And it is for us, for their children and grandchildren, to advocate for those victims. So, and never, never again to fail them in silence. You must become their ambassadors. Every one of you is ambassador of your homeland, and every one of you has a power to carry their voices, and never, never let anyone to deny that the Holocaust never happened. Israelis and Ukrainian sons and daughters defend the freedom and light that we celebrate today. And how do they do it? They give up their lives. So in this festive period of Hanukkah and pre-Christmas period, many parents do not celebrate. They grieve in the dark pain and sorrow for their lost children, both as fallen defenders and just innocent victims of terroristic attacks in the 21st century. But we all know that even after the darkest hour, there always will be bright new light of the new day. and in our pursuit for liberty and freedom, we always must believe that the light will shine again and our people will be free of genocide, murder, terrorism, and oppression. Together, standing shoulder by shoulder, supporting each other, we will prevail. I truly believe in it. And I want to ask you, never, never be silent. Never give up. Never give up on your freedom and on your identity. Stay strong, my friends, and thank you.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Maccabees that come to me, speaking words of wisdom, let me. And in my hour of darkness, they are standing right in front of me, speaking words of victory, Maccabees. Let it be. Let it be, oh, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Oh, let it be. Let it be, oh, let it be. Yeah. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. When the broken hearted people living in the world of grief, there will be an answer, let it be. But though they may be parted, there is still a chance that we'll see. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Oh, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Oh, let it be. Let it be. Oh, let it be. Yeah. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. When the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines 8 nights. Shout from the north, let it be. I wake up through the sound of music, Maccabees that come to me, speaking words of wisdom, Maccabees. Let it be, let it be, let it be, oh, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Oh, let it be. Yeah. Let it be an answer. Let it be. Oh, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Oh, let it be. Yeah. Shout until tomorrow. Let it be.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you. There comes a time when silence is betrayal. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Following October 7th, many Jewish people have been crushed by the stunning, silent betrayal of those who they believe to be their friends and allies. We have marched alongside our friends for civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, climate change, but now that we are under attack, we look around and we do not see any of those friends marching with us. Many of us are feeling deeply betrayed, hurt, and alone, and yet we see today that we are not entirely alone. We are joined by many of you in the audience and by representatives from the Hindu, Christian, and Muslim communities who are standing shoulder to shoulder with us in this battle against the world's oldest hatred. I would like to introduce the following speakers to share their perspectives with us. Mr. Neil Makija, Montgomery County Commissioner-elect and President of Indian-American Impact, followed by Reverend Todd Stavrakos, pastor at the Gladwin Presbyterian Church, then Sheikh Musa, religious leader at Masjid Al-Iman Mosque in Parkchester, New York, and finally Ms. Suhag Shukla, Executive Director of the Hindu American Foundation. Reverend King also famously said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Thank you for not being silent.
Hello, everyone. It is such an honor to be welcomed here today. My name is Neil Makija. I am president of Indian American Impact and most recently elected as Montgomery County Commissioner just a month ago. I am so proud to represent a vibrant Jewish community in our home in Lower Merion and throughout Montgomery County, the youngest resident of which is our son Avi, who's sitting over here up front. He's 5 months old. With my wife, Dr. Rachel Nash. As someone who has stood up for civil rights as a lawyer, as a civic organizer, I understand the importance of the words that many of you have shared today, and the words of Dr. King best exemplified in his speech on the American Dream, which is that our destiny is intertwined. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. So when one community is attacked with hatred, with violence, we all stand together. And I'm here to tell you, and the speakers you'll hear from soon, representing Hindu, Muslim, and Christian faiths, that we stand with the Jewish community at this moment. Now, I was just elected. I don't have a staff. I don't have a speechwriter. And, you know, I thought, as I listened to the governor and the senator, you know, how am I going to handle this? You know, this is a moment where so many people are afraid to speak up. So many people are afraid to say anything because they think it could be wrong. But I thought, let me just start with something real simple, which is that whether it's at college like Penn, where I teach, or in the workplace, or in the government that I'm going to oversee, calling for genocide in any context is unacceptable. So I always worried that some of my colleagues who went to schools like the Ivy Leagues, they would sometimes come out and they would learn to take simple things and make them more complicated in order to make themselves look smart. Whereas the purpose of the education, of the knowledge that you gain at these institutions, is to take complex things and make them simple to share and to help others spread the truth. One of those truths comes from the sheer understanding that history repeats itself and that we must learn what has happened in the past so that we avoid it in the future. And one of the reasons that I stand up here today is that I recognize when we raise our son Avi, we don't want him to be afraid of his identity. We don't want him to live in fear of his Jewish identity. And we want him to be proud. We want him to live proudly and embrace all of who he is and the values that, that Jews stand for. Now, we're celebrating Hanukkah, and we'll light a menorah at home near the window. And I also want to share that we've celebrated Diwali and we've lit the diya. And in the Hindu tradition, we celebrate the triumph of light over darkness, of knowledge over ignorance, and of good over evil. These are basic truths, and there are going to be moments in time where people try to pull us away from our values through violence and hatred. And it is in those times where it is most important that we never compromise on our basic values. Now, I want to share one thing because the governor brought up Mike Solomonov and what happened. And when I saw what happened in the protests and the calls to boycott him, I saw something that was not only anti-Semitic, it was anti-Philadelphia. It was anti what we stand for as Pennsylvanians. When I think about my first coming to Philly, when I got my first job, my colleagues took me to Goldie and they welcomed me. When I went on my first date with Rachel, we went to Rooster Soup in the basement and had matzo ball. And I upgraded when we got engaged, we went to Zahav. And every time I finished a class at Penn Law, at the last class of the semester, I brought them federal donuts. And let me tell you, no one has ever protested a donut. And I say this because it reminds me that Michael and the institutions he's created are part of the fabric and the culture of Philadelphia. And it's something that we should be deeply proud of. And we need more places where we can share our cultures, where we can bring people together, where we can have them see the light and recognize us as human beings. So if there is one thing that I want to end with, it's really to ask all of you to continue standing up, not just in the moments for our community, and we will be with you when there are times like this, but to make sure that when there are moments of hatred, of whether it's Islamophobia, hatred, discrimination against all of our communities, that we all remember and we stand together. Because when we stand together with our values, there is nothing that can defeat that. Thank you.
My name is Todd Stavrakis. I'm pastor at Gladwin Presbyterian Church, as well as one of the founding members of an organization called Pathways, which has been formed to confront anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish, and anti-Israel rhetoric in mainline denominations here in the United States. When I was a child growing up, we lived in Fox Chase, where my father was pastor at the Fox Chase Memorial Presbyterian Church. And I went to school in the Abington School District, which is kind of strange that I was a city kid going to Abington, but you know, rules are rules. I have no idea what it was. But I can recall one spring break, which always coincided with Holy Week. There was a conversation amongst some of the kids, and I was a PK, and there was also a fellow student, a female student, whose father was also a pastor. And this must have been maybe when we were in 4th or 3rd grade. And evidently she had been telling some of our Jewish classmates that they were the reason Jesus died. And so they came to me, as the eminent theologian I was in 4th grade, and they asked me, did the Jews kill Christ? And I pulled out of my back pocket the answer, no. This is 40 years ago, maybe more. I wish it was a story of my past. But it's still a story of the present as well. It's one of the reasons why I and fellow colleagues in the Episcopal Church USA, in the ELCA, the Lutheran Church, and the Presbyterian Church USA, and the Methodist Church, and the Disciples of Christ, it's why we have banded together to form pathways, to stand up to the anti-Semitism and anti-Jewish hatred in the United States, particularly in our denominations. There are many historians who say that anti-Jewish rhetoric and anti-Semitism predates the church, and they may be right. But what I do know is that Justin Martyr in the 1st century stated that the Jews do not know their own scripture, which is why they have turned from Christ. That is a sentiment that still exists in the church in the United States and around the world. That cannot stand. Our voices must be united in confronting hatred against the Jewish people in any form, particularly in the church. This is not a Jewish problem. This is my problem, the church's problem. We've promulgated it for 2,000 years, and enough is enough. Now, I stand before you as one person, but I stand with my interfaith and ecumenical partners. But I am not the only one in the mainline denominations who think this. There are many of us. You do not walk this alone. We walk with you. And don't assume that because a talking head at one of our major denominations says something negative about Israel and the Jewish community, do not believe that that stands for what people in the pews think, because they don't. A year ago, 2 years ago, Martin Luther King Day, our stated clerk at the Presbyterian Church USA made the audacious statement of saying that the state of Israel was a modern-day slave state. Yeah. And then castigated the American Jewish community for not standing up to the state of Israel. Oh, we brought hell down upon him. But we find that a lot of the people filling the denominational roles are so out of touch with how we think in the pews and in these congregations that they are so out of touch and have ignored the rising anti-Semitism in our own denominations because of their words, and words are real. And so we stand together. It's not just me. Imagine thousands, if not millions, with me today, standing with you, saying we will never turn our backs. During this season of Hanukkah and Advent, which will flow into our season of light, Epiphany, we know that the light drives out darkness. And so together, we will drive out the darkness. God bless you. Amen.
Good afternoon. And salam alaikum. And salam. Thank you, Rabbi, for hosting us in this beautiful, beautiful place. I am from the Boogie Down Bronx, from New York. And I am extremely honored to be here, although I am very sad to be here for the occasion. As stated, my name is Sheikh Musa Drame. I am the Imam of Co-op City Mosque in the Bronx, New York City. I am truly honored to be with you here today at this important gathering. I thank your governor, and I also thank his political colleagues for prioritizing the emergency or the urgency of addressing the rampant and persistent anti-Semitism in our nation. While I feel patriotic to be here during the worst time in Israel and one of the worst anti-Semitic moments in our nation, I am nonetheless truthfully hurt and frustrated by two things. The first thing is the reason why we're here, October 7. The heinous crime, the terrorism that took place on October 7, and the way it happened, and the ugliness and the viciousness that took place is so horrifying and indeed deeply troubling. When visiting Far Ashar kibbutz last month, my wife and I had a chance, to meet with some survivors and those whose loved ones are in captivity. And their stories were gut-wrenching. You cannot hear it and not cry. And you cannot hear it as a human being not seeing yourself doing something. And we're doing something about it as Muslims. As a Muslim leader, walking on the charge of the ruins of some of these kibbutz homes made me to redouble the condemnation that I had for what happened on October 7. Because I met the people, I saw what happened, and I talked to them, and nobody can put the nonsense in denying it. Not before me. The second frustration that I have standing here is that in Philadelphia, you happen to have a large population of Muslims. And I'm sure you have hundreds of Muslim leaders. And for me to be here, perhaps maybe alone, frustrates me. This is the time where Muslims must come and show solidarity with you. This is a time where they show up. And this is a time where they speak up. And this is a time where all the investments that have been made in building communal bonds must be manifested. So I'm frustrated being alone here. And again, we're going to do something about it. 8 years ago, my wife and I are co-founders of an organization called Muslims-Israel Dialogue. And Muslims-Israel Dialogue was founded to talk to OIC and the Arab League and to talk to the Muslim world, to educate them a little bit. You have 57 nations in OIC membership, 57 nations. Among them, 22 Arab League nations. Arabic language, Arabic culture, Arabic heritage, Arabic background, Islamic religion. They are proud, they are independent, and they deserve to be proud and independent. Now you mean to tell me you're going to spend 75 years fighting one Jewish nation that got designated? You're going to spend another day fighting that nation that got designated and give it to Jewish people. 8 years ago we said we're going to do something about it, and we're doing something about it. Thank you. You know, in New York, where we reside and work and make a lot of good troubles, happen to be the place where you have the largest Jewish and Muslim populations. And in the last several years, in the last 12 years, New York experienced two of the worst fire tragedies in this century. And all the victims were Muslims. And each tragedy, the first relief group on the scene were the Jewish groups. And the most generous donors to victims were Jewish groups. All of them. The last tragedy, after donating over $1 million to these poor families suffering, Rabbi Bob Kaplan of JCRC called me and said, Musa, I know we have done the best we could, but I know we could always do more. And I know you're suffering, your community is suffering. Are there anything else we can do? And I said, you have done it all. He said, what else can we do? And I said, let me find out. I know that some of the families have decided to send their loved ones to be buried back home, and I don't know whether they have the funds or not. Rabbi Kaplan said, find out what they need. I told Rabbi Kaplan later about $20,000. He said, I don't want to guarantee you, but I will try. A couple of hours later, Rabbi Kaplan called me and said, Musa, I have $25,000 for you to bury your loved ones. So in conclusion, because of our fair history, Jews and Muslims, you cannot separate them. Even in New York, you know, the Arabs and Jews fight, but they do business together. You can't separate them. All the Arabs, their lawyers are Jewish. And all the Jews, the people that sell their product are Arabs. You can't separate them. And so because of that shared history and common destiny, and also common principles of faith, we always said fighting anti-Semitism is as much of a Muslim obligation as it is a Jewish one. And I'm going to leave you with these two things. Last year, November, I was in Israel. And while I was there, Israelis were fighting among themselves, left and right, conservative, liberal, everybody was fighting. Even people were concerned about Israel moving forward. This November, last November, I went back, and everybody was like this. It brought the unity that was needed, and unfortunately it comes after pain, but it came. And I believe after everything said and done, this tragedy will make Israel more powerful, stronger, more united, and the Muslim world will finally recognize that Israel is an asset, not liability. So with that being said, let us all say it, never again is now, and let us bring them home now. Thank you, and God bless you.
Shalom and namaste. History tells us that over 2,000 years ago, 7 families came to the shores of my ancestral and sacred homeland, India. They were Jews seeking refuge from persecution, some say after the destruction of the first and second temples. Whether they arrived by intention or simply by the destiny of the sea's winds, they had stepped into a Hindu civilization whose core ethos was Ekam Sat Vipraha Bahuda Vadanti. The truth is one, the wise call it by many names. And so in a place where difference was accepted and pluralism was exalted, these 7 grew to thousands and contributed to India in even greater measure. Over the centuries, the Ben Israel were joined by Jews from across the world. They not only survived, they thrived, as did their way of life, in one of the few places on earth that has been immune to the disease of anti-Semitism. Indeed, anti-Semitism is a disease because hate is a disease. It spreads, it mutates, it kills. Not just human bodies, but the human spirit. The earliest strains stemmed from greed for power and land or fear of outward differences. But over time, hate mutated. Millions have suffered gravely under the influence of intoxicating and lethal ideas like my race is superior to yours, that my God must be yours, or that your ways are wrong. And today, these old forms of hate have gone viral by a contagion that divides us into 2 contrived tribes of either oppressed or oppressor, blinding otherwise well-meaning people to our shared reality and individual humanity. But there are antidotes. It's understanding that the world is complex and that there are no simple answers. It's finding common ground and respecting irreconcilable differences. It's recognizing that there exists a bright line between good and evil, civility and savagery. It's having moral clarity and moral courage. It's choosing love over hate. And what do these antidotes deliver? An unequivocal and universal condemnation of terrorism, the rape of women, and the killing of innocents, as well as the admission that the refusal to do so in this moment is rooted in blatant anti-Semitism. These antidotes deliver an emphatic yes when asked whether faculty celebrating the actions of Hamas or students calling for the genocide of Jews constitutes harassment of Jewish students. They deliver peaceful and principled protests that gather in front of city halls, not mobs who target a business simply because it's owned by a Jew. When the antidote works, a peaceful, fair, and just society emerges for everyone, regardless of where we're from, how we pray, or who we love, and all humans flourish. The Jewish tradition might say that the antidote delivers tikkun olam. And in the Hindu tradition, the last verse of the ancient Rig Veda says, May we march forward with a common goal. May we be open-minded and work together in harmony. May we share our thoughts for collective wisdom. Sangachadvam samvadadvam samvo manansi janatam. So let us join together and be the antidote, and start by taking a stand against anti-Semitism together. Namaste and shalom.
So, we have intentionally saved Charlotte Korczak as our last speaker for her remarkable ability to inspire and leave a profound impact. Just a couple of weeks ago, she gave a very powerful speech at the massive London rally against anti-Semitism. We know that Jewish hate, unfortunately, starts with miseducation. But we also know that standing against and fighting anti-Semitism starts with the right education, especially of the younger generation. Charlotte, as the international senior educator of Stand With Us, has devoted her career to educating and empowering students around the world in Israeli history, activism, and combating anti-Semitism. Engaging with thousands of students a year from nearly every continent, she trains them to be effective activists in their high schools, universities, and communities worldwide when they grow up. So think about the incredible impact that she's having on so many people. So let's welcome Charlotte Korczak, a foremost voice in her field, as she shares her insights and experiences with us today.
I also don't have a speechwriter. I work for a nonprofit organization called Stand With Us. I'm also a little ashamed to admit, but I'm not a Pennsylvanian. So thanks for sticking around for hearing from me. It wouldn't be a Jewish event if we weren't at least a half hour over time. So right on schedule. But I am an American. I am an Israeli. And I'm a Jew. And like Golda Meir said to Henry Kissinger, I also read from right to left. I have spent the last 2 months of my life traveling the world and speaking about Israel and Zionism and the Jewish people. And tragically, I've spent the last 10 years of my life talking about anti-Semitism. And I've watched it get worse, tragically. And sometimes I ask myself, is anything that we're doing matter? Does it matter? Have we moved the needle? And then I stand in a room like this and I know that it matters for the people who care. And our job is to make more people care. That's our job. It's, I sometimes say the burden of our generation, but I would say it's the responsibility of my generation for sure, and the next generation. And I have the luxury of, again, getting to travel the world. And in the last 2 months, I've been to Canada and the United States and Norway and the Netherlands and the UK and, of course, home in Israel. And I've watched not just the Jewish community, but communities around the world rally around us. I was lucky enough to be in this country for the November 14th rally. I was lucky enough to be in the United Kingdom, in London, when we marched against anti-Semitism. I started one of my trips in Norway at a conference that was scheduled well before October 7th happened. And I stood in front of 200 predominantly non-Jews who gather every year at a conference to talk about how they will continue to support Israel and the Jewish people. Their attendance doubled this year. Their registration grew by 2,000, and they were only at 11,000 before, of paid membership to be part of an organization that stands up for Israel. So I stress what's been said up here so many times today, which is that we're not alone. We're not, and it feels like we are for sure. Look, I'm an educator, and I would be remiss to stand up here and say a lot of sound bites which are important, don't get me wrong. And we've heard many of them today, and one of the challenges of being the last speaker is what hasn't been said. And I want to give you a little education, because I'm an educator. And that is the hat that I wear every single day, and I am such a firm believer that education is the road to peace. It's how we are going to solve the problems of our world. It's what we instill in the next generation. I'm grateful to see so many of the parents in the room who brought their children, young children, because they might not remember anything that's been said, but they will remember how they felt, as Maya Angelou once said. Anti-Semitism is a disease, as was said so eloquently, and it is a disease that manifests in different ways. And we have to remember that it comes from all sides. And I think one of the things that I tend to have to remind my students very often when I get asked the most infamous question, which is, Charlotte, what's worse, anti-Semitism on the right or on the left? And my response is, it doesn't matter. It's all bad. You know, I would argue there's two different types of anti-Semitism that we face. We face what I'm going to call Purim anti-Semitism and what I'm going to call Hanukkah anti-Semitism. Purim anti-Semitism is very blatant. It's very obvious. It's very in your face. Haman, one of the leaders of the Persian Empire, decided the Jews were evil and needed to be vanquished, a nation within a nation, something we have heard for the last many centuries. And he spread propaganda about the Jews very openly and honestly, saying Jews are bad. Jews are going to eventually take over. We need to destroy them. And he brought down an edict saying we're going to kill the Jews. He wasn't shy about it. He didn't hide it. He was open and honest about how he felt about the Jewish people. How does that manifest in the 20th century? The Nazi Germany. The Germans who outright said just the same thing. The Jews are bad, the Jews are evil, we need to kill the Jews. And they didn't use any other word but Jew. They were clear and open and honest about how they felt. And in the 21st century, how does it manifest? People chanting Jews will not replace us in Charlottesville. Hamas, openly stating in their charter that their goal is to wipe out the Jewish people. Again, they're not shy about it, and they don't hide it. Today, that type of anti-Semitism manifests predominantly on the right, the far right. Nazism, white supremacy. And in Israel, Islamic anti-Semitism. And then you have Hanukkah anti-Semitism, very apropos for the days that we are in today. Hanukkah anti-Semitism was more subversive. It was the Greeks rising up and saying, we don't have a problem with the Jews. We just have a problem with everything that you do. We have a problem with the way that you slaughter your animals. We have a problem with how you learn that Torah of yours because we believe that you need to pray to many gods and not just one. And they said, we're not going to kill the Jew. We don't have to harm the Jew, right? We're just going to make it impossible for you to be a Jew. So they didn't kill the body of the Jew. They killed the soul of the Jew. How did it manifest in the 20th century? The Soviet Union. We know how many Jews we lost to Nazi Germany, 6 million. We will never know how many we lost to the Soviets. Because they didn't kill them after World War II. They just forced them to not be Jewish. How is that manifesting today? Students who walk into a space on campus and they find themselves in maybe a more liberal space or a more progressive space. They want to stand up for gay rights or women's rights or black rights. And they're told, oh, okay, you're a Jew. That's great. We love Jews. We're all about the Jews. But are you a Zionist? And I hope that every Jew who's a Zionist will proudly say, well, yeah, of course I am. Yeah, I very much believe in the Jewish state in the land of Israel. Why would I not? And they'll say, well, that doesn't work for us. Just doesn't. So it's very simple. All you have to do is just check your Zionism at the door, and then you'll be totally accepted into this space. So just like chop off your arm and leave it over there, because that's what they're asking of us. Slowly chipping away at the Jewish soul, at the Jewish identity, until it's no longer. It's left-wing anti-Semitism. It exists on the far left, it exists on the far right, and we need to stop talking about the political spectrum as a line, but as a circle, because they always meet. And where they almost always meet is anti-Semitism. It's how we live in a world where David Duke, the head of the KKK, will retweet Ilhan Omar. Explain that one to me. A neo-Nazi promoting the voice of a black, Muslim, Somali refugee. Only when it comes to their hatred of the Jewish people. So we've heard a lot about how that manifests, and I gave you a little bit of extra, but now I really want to leave us with what we can do, because a lot of people up here have said, stand up and speak out, and I agree. But we have to take it one step further. What does that mean? You know, the average person is not going to see that you're a Jew and say, can you explain to me all about the Jewish people and anti-Semitism? They won't. The only way they're going to is if you create that space for them. So first step is you have to educate yourself. Not just with the slogans, but with the actual facts. What is anti-Semitism and how can we explain it to other people? Read Barry Weiss's book, How to Fight Anti-Semitism, a Pennsylvanian. Read Deborah Lipstadt's book, Antisemitism Here and Now. 2 resources that if you go home and read them in the next 2 weeks, you will be incredibly equipped to have this conversation. Then, create the space to have the conversation. What do I mean by that? First of all, wear your Judaism on your sleeve. I wear it around my neck every single day, without hesitation, no matter where I go. And I stress that because I don't cower, and I'm not going to, especially not now. I am the child of the Second Intifada in Israel. I buried my friends murdered in suicide bombings. I am not going to put my head down. I'm just not. So you have to be visibly Jewish. Now is not the time to cower. So wear it on your sleeve. You know, I got into an Uber once with an Israeli shaliach. I won't say where. And when we got into the Uber driver said, "Are you Bob?" I said, who the hell's Bob? And he said, "That's just my name that I use so they don't know that I'm Israeli." What? Why? I got into an Uber right here in Philadelphia about 6 months ago. And I was picked up outside of a Jewish school where the Israeli flag was being proudly flown. And my driver's name was Muhammad. And many Jews would say, "Oh no, what's this gonna be like?" And I got into the car and I said, "Hey, how are you?" And he said, "Good, how are you?" And I said, "Good." We started talking and he said, "Where are you from?" And I could have very easily defaulted on, "I'm from Los Angeles, because look at me." Instead, I said, "I'm from Israel." Actually, that's not how it went. I said, "Where are you from?" And he said, "I'm from Palestine." And I said, "Oh my God, we're neighbors." I said, "I live in Jerusalem." And he said, "My family's from Ramallah." And I said, "Oh my God, we're really neighbors." And I spent the next 20 minutes in that Uber talking to a Palestinian about peace, about hate. I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I just defaulted and said, "Oh, that's nice that you're from Palestine," or worse, "Where's Palestine?" because that doesn't exist. Whether you believe it or not, there are moments where it's just not worth being said because it stifles conversation and dialogue and the ability to break through the barriers that we need to break through. So we need to create the space where we can have these conversations. A year ago, we were dealing with Kanye West. Remember him? And I was on a train from London to Lancaster. Far, far train journey. Packed train cars, because I don't know if you've ever been to the UK, but their train system is a little messed up right now. And I'm sitting across from a Muslim woman and her son. And I'm sitting next to 2 men who are across from me. One's Welsh and one's Scottish. And they're schmoozing the whole time, and I'm eavesdropping because, well, that's what I do. And at some point they started talking about driving or something. I don't even know what it was. And I leaned over and I said, "Oh yeah, driving in my country is crazy." And I do this on purpose. And they said, "What country?" And I said, "Israel." And they said, "Oh yeah, what's it like there?" And we started talking. And within about 10 minutes of me being very open about being a Zionist and being a Jew, and all of a sudden, the guy in the window leans in and he goes, "I have a question, and I hope I don't offend you. Why is it that everyone seems to hate the Jews?" And I spent the next 10 minutes, because of what I do, my job as an educator and the knowledge that I had, I spent the next 10 minutes on that train educating these Scottish and Welsh individuals about what is anti-Semitism and why it manifests and how it manifests. And let's be honest, I was probably educating everybody else in that train car because I'm not exactly quiet. And by the end of that journey, I remember I spoke to them about how many Jews there were in the world, or a lack thereof, for that matter. Or about 15.6 at the moment. They were shocked. I asked them if they knew about what happened with Kanye West, and they said, "Yeah, that's what prompted the question." And I said, "Did you say anything about it publicly?" And they said, "No. Not my place. What do I know?" And by the end of that journey, as each one of them got up to leave, they said to me, "Thank you. I would not have known. I would not have known the help that your community needs without you having had this conversation with me. And I will stand up next time, and I will speak out." And I realized very quickly that in the span of about 15, 20 minutes, you can create an ally in this world, or even better, a friend. Because friends stand by you no matter what, allies will sometimes not so much. We all have the power to do that. The way to do it is to educate yourself and then make Judaism and Zionism a core part of who you are and what you talk about every single day in every space, without being uncomfortable, without being embarrassed, with holding your head high. So walk out of here and take on something. Walk out of here acknowledging that every single one of us has a role to play. That every single one of us can do something every single day that pushes the needle. And you know the biggest slap in the face to anti-Semites out there? You ready? The simplest thing that we could all do again every single day? Be more Jewish. I don't care what that means. That's not me saying be more observant. That's not me saying pray more. But if that's your way, do it. But it's lighting those Hanukkah candles in your window and not hiding it. It's every day being able to say Achenu, a prayer for our hostages. Or saying a chapter of Tehillim, of Psalms, committing that you're going to finish that book. Maybe you and a team of others. It's walking tall and proud as a Jew every single day. It's writing letters to our soldiers. It's contributing to the organizations out there that are doing the work every single day that enable me to stand here and do this work. Every single one of us has a skill. Apply it to helping the Jewish people now. Never again started again on October 7th. And this is our responsibility. And it's not hard to be more Jewish. It is hard to not be afraid. And I want to stress something. It's okay to be afraid. I don't like people shutting down emotions. I like them validating emotions because fear is a very valid emotion. I lived through the second Intifada and I was afraid every single day. And one day I got on a bus and I got to school and I found out that the bus after mine was blown up and 17 people from my community were murdered. And the next day, on June 19th, 2002, I boarded the exact same bus and I went to school. Resilience. Israelis have it in droves because we have had to. Now, Jewish people around the world need to embrace resilience. So be afraid, be scared, but be prepared and be empowered by your fear. No, don't cower from it, but be empowered by it. Stand up and say, we are not going to go silently into the night. We are not going to let go of who we are. In fact, we are now going to be more Jewish and more Zionist and more in your face than we ever have been before. So thank you. Thank you for showing up, like the many, many people and the many communities that I've been to who've shown up. Thank you for showing up because that's the first step, but it's not the last step. Walk out of this room saying, I am going to do more. Because if every single one of us does more, then we together, in the time where Jews have the most resources, the most capabilities to fight this, we will fight this. And we will win. And let me tell you one more thing before you walk out of the room, and we're going to say the national anthem, so don't go. One more thing. If we do this right, and we have up until this point, if we do this right, we will come out of this. We don't, look, I can look down the path and say there's a tunnel, light at the end of the tunnel. But instead of clinging for the light that's at the end of the tunnel, instead of that, let's light the path together. And we have every ability in this world to come out of this stronger, more powerful, and more united than we've ever been before. So stand tall, stand proud, and be more Jewish. Thank you.
Wow, what a grand finale. That was amazing. Before the national anthem, we just want to conclude. Thank you, Charlotte, for the inspiring words. And we just wanted to thank all of you the organizers, the supporters, the sponsors, and, of course, Congregation Rodef Shalom, all the speakers that came out. And I also have to thank my wife here, who has tolerated me being missing in action for over 2 weeks. I think the take-home message is very simple. Jewish hate will never be tolerated, and we will always rise against it. As long as this wave of anti-Semitism continue, we will be here, speaking out, uniting together, and organizing more rallies and displays of solidarity, always.
In America, we typically begin events with the national anthem. However, in Israel, they typically end events with theirs. Today, we decided to take the Israeli approach. So please stand for the national anthem of America, followed by Hatikva, the national anthem of Israel. One last logistical announcement. If you'd like to take a sign, feel free. There are metal lawn sticks to attach to the white and blue signs at the table as you exit. Thank you all so much for coming, and with that, we conclude our program.